Hello and welcome to my channel. We're going to look at C# programming from basics to intermediate with some even advanced topic as well. Today we're going to look at some data types which are the fundamentals of any programming language. Data types, how computer stores our data. For example, our names, our date of birth, our age, price of the products, or books, titles, or publishers, anything that you can store in an application, they are stored in data types. In C#, there are a number of data types options. For example, byte, which is 1 byte in size, that can store from 0 to 255. Short, which is 2 bytes in size, it has a limit of 32,768 negative numbers. And in positive numbers, 32,767. Integer, which is size is 4 bytes, it can store quite a big number, like 2.14 billion, and as you can see from the number here. Integers are round numbers, like it does not store any fractions. Similarly, long as well, which is 8 bytes, double of a integer. So if you want to store a really big number like this, then you can use long. Long is 8 bytes in size. So these are used for the round numbers, as you can see with these examples on this third column. Another option we have, if you want to store some fractional numbers with decimal points, like product prices, like 9.99 or 8.89 or whatever number fraction numbers are. In that case, we can use float. Float is a 4 bytes number, and it has something similar limit as you can see here, but with the fractional points. Double, if you need a bigger number, then in that case you can use 8 bytes. Bool, where we can store true or false, 0 or 1. In that case, we can use bool, which is just 1 byte, which actually just stores 0 or 1 in computer memory. So all we need 1 byte. Char, which used to be 1 byte, now 2 bytes, stores a single character letter surrounded by single quotes. So if you want to store a single character, like X, P, Y, Z, M, F, whatever you want to store for the purpose of your application. String is actually an array of characters. This is not a primitive data type, by the way. In another video, I'm going to explain you what is primitive and non-primitive data types. So primitive data types are like all these are primitive data types, except string. Non-primitive are strings, arrays, and our own defined types, which is another topic. I will cover it in another video. So these are the primitive data types. So string is an array of characters. Arrays will be covered again in another topic in a video in detail. So that's if you want to store something more than 1 characters, like name of a person or a product name, okay, or any other information that you want to store which can contain more than 1 character, string is a good option. If you need really a bigger space, then double and long. There's another option we have, decimal, but that is 16 bytes. So when you consider any data type, just make sure to remember their sizes. You don't have to remember, but you can get it from the internet when you Google data types, C# data types, but just make sure that you understand that every data type that you choose, it takes quite a lot of space in the computer memory. So we're going to run some examples in C# code now, implementing some of these data types. Okay, let's go to Visual Studio. Let's go to Visual Studio, which we installed in our previous video. Let's create a new project. There are a number of templates available here. As you can see, it supports quite a lot of frameworks and other programming tools and techniques. But let's have a look at the one I want to use, .NET framework. So I'm going to choose this option, console application, because all the code that you're going to run about C# will be written in the console environment for now, because I'm not building any GUI at the moment. So it's all focusing on the C# programming concepts from basics to intermediate. So I'm going to pick this option. That's next. Right. I should create a separate folder for all these. So I'm going to create another folder and store all relevant code in this folder. C# programming. Okay, so all my code will be stored here. Now, what I want to name my project, let's call it data programming. So that's my IntelliSense is just amazing in C#. It tells you if you are missing anything. For example, if I'm missing this, it will tell me itself by highlighting you are missing something. Look. So IntelliSense in Visual Studio is just amazing. And look at that. That namespace system was disabled before, but by the time I wrote this code, it's enabled because console and write line belongs to the system, input, output. So, right, oops, sorry, semicolon. So I need a semicolon here for the system, so it doesn't give me that red sign. The red sign if there's some serious, dangerous error, and green sign if I declare something and never use it. For example, if I just say here, let's say end string. So if I'm not using it and still running my code, it's going to show me that this variable string name is the variable name is declared but never used. So this is a good thing here, that as you can see, it just shows me something is wrong, something is not used. In this kind of situation, you can, the good practice is just assign something like this as well, to assign a value. Now again it tells me unnecessary assignment of a value to name. Yeah, it's just not happy with this. Okay, it doesn't matter, it's not stopping us from running, we're coming back towards this. So the first thing I want to show you now how to execute your code. So to execute the code, click on play button. Okay, what happened? The code executed, but we haven't seen anything on the screen. To hold the screen for us to read it, there's an option called console.read line or read key. You can just say read key as well. Look at this. IntelliSense is telling me the completion of the statement. You see when I'm writing here. Okay, let me show you again from beginning. It's just one of the best feature. So you see when I'm writing something, it gives me suggestion. You see, look, that read key parentheses. All you need to do, look, press tab to accept it. Tab, tab, and that's written here. Now, if I execute the code here, it shows me now data types in C# programming. Did you see that string name is not anywhere published or, on the screen? So now let's use that variable that we created. Let's bring it down here after this. So let's say I write here something. So because this is not in use, so it gives me the green underline. The green underline is not a serious thing because it's just a warning. It's not an error message. So the code still runs. Now I'm going to write here something. Let's say James. Right. So I'm going to execute the code again. Now again, I only see the data types in C#, but I don't see anything printed on the screen. So what I need to do is, look at this suggestion, amazing. Console.writeLine name. If you want to accept that, C# IDE is suggesting me, do you want to print the name? So to accept it, press the tab button. Done. It's even so helpful writing the code for me. Again, I'm going to press the play button, and it says James. Now, there's another thing called concatenation that we should learn here. Concatenation is something that we can add two parts of the statement. I think this is the correct spelling. Let me double check if I made a mistake. Yeah, concatenation. Okay. So concatenation means joining two parts of a statement together. So you can customer name is in a number of different ways in C#, which I will explain you later with some other examples. So the customer name is, and this is one part of a statement, and that variable has a value which is another part of the statement. Okay, so that is called concatenation. So now if I play the button again, and it shows me the customer name is James. So that is how string is used. I can use a number of different other options as well, like string, programming. Okay, and let's say string. Let's say Freeman. Okay, he has some amazing books on C# programming and some MVC framework. So this is something. Okay, what about the price? Let's say flow price equal. I have to briefly explain here. It's asking for a suffix F that is used for float, and what else we need? L, which is for long, and M, which is for decimal, the book, right? And I would say this plus and title plus is written by plus price. But as you can see here, there's quite a number of plus, plus, plus. So what is the other method of concatenation? So the other method of concatenation to print something like this, right? Instead of this, I will just put here as, oops, sorry, 0. The book, which is written by this by Adam Freeman. Then instead of this, I can put here 1, and then instead of price, I'll put here there's 2. Now you will understand in a minute what exactly I'm trying to do. So title, author this way. What will happen? The book, which is C# programming, is written by the price, and the price will be printing here as the author. Let me show you. But before I run the code, let me disable or comment out this one, so it will not be shown on the screen. By this, using these what's called slashes, forward slashes, it means anything written after this will not be printed on the screen. Okay, because the book C# which is written by, look at the price is shown here by Adam. Then instead of price, Adam Freeman is shown here. So that is a mistake which you should not do that. Okay. So put them in order. So if you want to put here the title should be the first variable that you want to send to this location. The second is the author. The third one is the price. So this is an amazing way of avoiding those plus, plus, plus sign. So you can do it this way in concatenation, or simply use these placeholders. So what did we use so far? We used string, and float. And let's say you want to write here integer. So let's say total books in stock. Let's say what do you want to store in it? Let's say gender. And in gender, you want to store the gender of our customer, James. So let's say we don't want to write the whole male. If you do that, then in that case, we have to have this as a string. But if I just want to store only one character, in that case, M. Okay. And then you can just write here gender of or maybe you can say the gender variable is, let's say, plus GEN gender. Let's have a look. So we store a character here. So the gender is M. You can store uppercase, lowercase, whatever, and that will help you to store one character in a variable. So just to give you a quick recap of what we covered so far, we learned how to print something on the screen. Input, output, we're going to discuss in another video again in detail. We learned how to store a string and print it on the screen. And we covered here how to store these properties and values here in these variables about a specific situation like the book's title, the author, and the price, and how to print them together using this placeholder instead of plus concatenation. Another way of printing them multiple parts of a statement together. In this video, we also covered the suffixes. Suffixes are when we tell the compiler how to treat this number as a float, double, long, decimal. So for those, you can use these characters. Okay, we also learn how to distinguish between short and integer. Short is 2 bytes, integer is 4 bytes, and how to print that value. And we practice character as well, how to store a character and print on our screen. Okay, so these are the data types that are used in C# programming. There are signed and unsigned as well, but I think at the moment this is sufficient to understand how data is stored in computer and programming in C#. The next task, the next slide has a small exercise for you. Okay, this one we already covered here, product price in detail, in retail. So what data types will you use to store the following type of data? So product price in a retail store, for example, price of apple juice, juices, chocolate, bread, bag of rice or sugar. So like in the retail industry like Tesco, Sainsbury, Asda, what will be your recommended data type to store a price? Age of the employees. By the way, normally as a programmer I would not store it, but this is just an example. Instead of age of employee, I will prefer to store the date. So because people get older with time, otherwise if you store age after 5 years, it will be still the same age. So, but just if you have to store the age, what will be your preferred data type? A number of products in store, what are you going to use? Like all these big giant stores, roughly I think they're selling 5,000 to 10,000 products, like these Asda, Tesco, Sainsbury. So for 5,000 to 10,000 products, what will be your recommended data type? Okay. The next task for you is the yearly revenue for a big retail like Asda, Tesco, or Sainsbury's. What are you going to recommend? So think about these for the next 5 minutes and try to run this code in your console application and then see what are your recommended data types for these. So I'm going to pause it for a few minutes, okay, and please do this and then I'll show you the possible answers. Okay. Now, to answer to those questions could be anything of those given limits that we discussed in the previous slide, but this could be slightly different from what you used. So in some cases, one question can have multiple answers. So my suggestion here is, as the product price is not a big number and we need fractional numbers, so float will be a good option. Yeah. If you use double, I think that will be too big, because in the retail industry there are a few pound or a few £100, so not in thousands and hundreds and millions. So float could be a good option. If you use double, that will take double the size of the float in computer memory. The age of employees, ideally, as I mentioned, I will prefer to use date of birth, but if you have to store the age of employee, a byte which can store 0 to 255 is a good option, or short is also sufficient. So a byte is 1 byte, a short is 2 bytes. So if you use integer, it will still work, but that takes a lot of space. A number of products in a store, like 8,000 to 10,000 or 5,000 or 15,000. So that's not a big number, so you can easily store it in integer or short. The yearly revenue, it will be in billions in these big giant stores, which serves millions of customers. So that could be, double could be used. You can use float as well. Float or double could be used. That will be sufficient for this. But if you want, you can use decimal as well. So I hope you have a good understanding about data types, why we need data types, and how C# stores data in computer program. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.